It's time for the Writer's Block. I'm Jenny Carlson here in the Oklahoman newsroom studios, and I'm joined by Cedric Golden from the Austin American-Statesman. Hey, Ced, what's up?
Not a lot, J. Carr. What's going on with you?
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's NCAA Tournament time, and that's our lead this week is the NCAA Tournament. Lots of basketball junkies and non-basketball junkies out there getting ready to figure out how to watch the games on Thursday and Friday during their work and, to avoid working, all that sort of thing. Two of my favorite days on the sports calendar. But Cedric, let's talk about, the big picture here. A lot of people picking Duke to win it all with Zion Williamson back and healthy. Are they your unabashed favorite for this whole thing?
Oh, of course they are. They're a prohibitive favorite, 2-to-1 odds to win it all. But did I pick them in the golden bracket? Heck no. What kind of fun would that be to just pick the favorite to win it? I'm not going to go there. My bracket is a little chalky. You can check it out on statesman.com. But I have the Duke Blue Devils bowing out in the Final Four to Gonzaga. And I know that's just going to come back and bite me in the butt. When has Gonzaga ever been as good as people thought they were?
Well, and that's a good point. But, I think that regional that Gonzaga in, Cedric, the West, might be the most difficult to pick. Now, I know a lot of people are looking at the Midwest with North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky, all those name teams. Iowa State, which, Kansas City being the regional final site, people expecting that to be a crazy ticket to get. But I think the West is really going to be tough to pick. I did not have Gonzaga coming out of there. But also, if you look at the regional that Virginia's in, I had Tennessee coming out of there to go to the Final Four. I do have Duke winning it all. But I think really, Cedric, when you look at it, there's maybe 6, 7, maybe 8 teams that could realistically be Final Four teams. I think if people are picking their brackets and maybe still trying to weigh anything in these final hours before the tournament starts, picking 1 and 2 seeds to get to the Final Four, maybe you pick upsets early, but I don't really know that there are a ton of non-1 and 2 seeds that I would look at to go to the Final Four. What about you?
Well, I look at that West, and Gonzaga is going to be tested. If they can, they're going to get Syracuse in the second round. That's not a given that they beat Syracuse. And you've got Texas Tech and Michigan and Florida in that region. It is a tough region. I think the toughest region, I think the Midwest is a beehive. I really do. Kentucky, Auburn is resurgent. You got North Carolina as the number 1. You got Kansas, sneaky Kansas. You never know. They're not Kansas that we're used to in the Big 12, but once the tournament starts, something always seems to happen. As long as they're not playing a team that starts with the letter B, they're usually okay. As long as it's Bucknell's or Bradley's not coming after them, so they get Northeastern in the first round, they should be okay.
Hey, Ced,
as far as my bracket's concerned, I do have 3 number 1s getting to the Final Four.
Yeah.
But that's my statesman bracket. My personal moneymaker bracket has yet to be filled out. So I probably won't be discussing that one publicly, but it'll probably I'll probably spend a little bit more time filling that one out because I won't be under any deadline pressure.
Well, and with the moneymaker bracket, we'll only hear about it when you're the one to have picked every game correctly. So, you don't want to let any of those secrets out.
Oh, my God. I don't think I've won one of these since, Arkansas won it way back in the day.
My goodness.
I was a 100-pound slider, and I had hair. I looked like Giselle, you wouldn't even recognize me.
All right, so lots of basketball to come. We'll be watching, obviously, as March Madness gets underway. The Thursday, Friday, again, I'll go out on a not too weak limb to say those are probably 2 of my favorite days on the sports calendar, just back-to-back games. All right, lots to come on that. We'll continue talking about that on the Writer's Block. But now we want to get on to our second segment, which is In Case You Missed It. And Cedric, you wanted to talk about a story that is sort of the latest turn on this Robert Kraft situation. It sounds like we may be hearing more about this in the coming days.
Well, from what I read, the investigators of this sex solicitation case have offered Robert Kraft, the New England Patriots billionaire owner, pictured here, a nice deal. All he has to do, they offered him a plea deal. He can go home and he'll may get a little bit of community service just as long as he admits that he probably would have been convicted. So, but he doesn't have to do any time. He doesn't have to pay any fines. Robert Kraft is free to go about his business, pull that white Bentley up into another seedy establishment, get his groove on, and the world is still going to be his oyster. He was never going to jail, and I don't think he was ever going to have to really come under some, a bad microscope that's worse than the one now. You don't want those details to come out. Yeah. But of course, we've heard some of them, and they were seedy enough. But apparently, Robert Kraft is above the law, and who would have thunk it?
Well, Cedric, I'm curious to see if this does end up being what Robert Kraft does, which, I assume it probably will be. You don't want to have, as you mentioned, you don't want to have all this possibly come out in court or court filings or whatever. But I'm curious to see, how does this impact what the NFL could, would, should, might do as it relates to Robert Kraft? We obviously saw the suspension and the fine that Jim Irsay, the Colts owner, was handed down to him. So in your mind, Cedric, does this mean that the NFL is likely to do nothing as it relates to Robert Kraft, or are they going to take this as a guilty and go from there? What do you think about the NFL and what it might do with its most, well, I don't know, I was going to say most high profile, most successful owner? I don't know if Jerry Jones might take homage to me saying most high profile, but definitely one of those guys that pretty much everybody in sports knows he's an NFL owner.
They may send down a little suspension or something, but here's what we got to mention, Jenny. Robert Kraft hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. Robert Kraft hasn't made a tackle, hasn't made a field goal, hasn't caught a touchdown pass. He doesn't play football. So what does it really matter? He's still got his billions. Everybody kind of knows he's maybe a little freaky. So what? He's an old guy with money. And in America, usually old guys with money don't get in big trouble unless your name's Bill Cosby. But everybody else seems to be okay. Robert Kraft, this is going to blow over. It's just the latest little scandal, but it's not something that's going to be a dark cloud hanging over the heads of the New England Patriots. As long as Bill Belichick is calling plays and Tom Brady's executing the offense, it's all good in the hood. They're not going to have any problems come the football season. You might not see that light blue shirt with the red tie and the white collar in the owner's box for a few games, but down on the field, they're going to be getting dubs.
Well, I do think it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out moving forward. We'll see. But my story, in case you missed it, I know nobody missed the mega deal that Mike Trout signed, the Anaheim Angels outfielder, 12 years, $430 million. But what you might have missed is that some people are wondering, is that Mike Trout contract going to have any impact on one Kyler Murray? And Cedric, Kyler Murray reportedly meeting with the Arizona Cardinals front office brass in Norman earlier this week. Cliff Kingsbury, Steve Keim did not make the trip to OU's Pro Day, but they did show up to talk to Kyler Murray earlier this week. No big surprise there. They hold that #1 pick in the NFL draft. But the kind of money that Kyler Murray could have guaranteed as an NFL player, not nearly the money that Mike Trout is guaranteed. All of that, $430 million guaranteed for Mike Trout. He's going to be almost 40 by the time that contract expires, and he's going to be making unbelievable sums of money for the next decade plus. But my feeling is, if I'm in Kyler Murray's shoes, the idea of the money, the injury, possibilities that exist in the NFL, I think I would have probably been swayed to play baseball. I think there's a lot of reasons to play baseball, but it's pretty clear at this point, to me, Cedric, he loves football. I don't think any mega contract is going to change his mind about going to the NFL. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in a couple years he decides, I'm playing baseball, I'm going to see how this goes, but I just don't think that contract is going to have any impact on Kyler Murray. You've seen him play a lot. You saw him as a high school kid down there in the state of Texas. Does this have any impact on him?
No. That Trout became a whale, by the way. He just needs to change his name. He's a whale now. He's no longer a Trout. 430 million, that's $500 million. But as far as Kyler is concerned, Mike Trout had to put in the time to get to that money. You're not going to get that money coming out of high school. Mm-hmm. You've got to be an all-star many times over before you can sign a contract that guarantees you that kind of money. So Kyler Murray made the right decision. He's following his passion. He's a football player. He wants to be in the NFL. He's going to make good money. But that kind of money should not even sway him in the least, because we can't assume that he was going to be hitting 325 with 45 bombs and 120 RBIs every year like Trout does. Yeah. But that just doesn't happen. And also be the best defensive player at your position. So none of that was going to be a given with Kyler. Kyler would have had to be tremendous to get that kind of money. He could be tremendous in the NFL and get a really good contract with some really good guaranteed money a lot sooner than putting in 8 to 10 years like Trout.
Yeah, and to back you up on that, Cedric, I heard a stat earlier today. Every year that Mike Trout has been in the major leagues, he has finished in the top 5 in the MVP voting, easy for me to say. Babe Ruth in his entire career only finished top 5 3 times. Mike Trout, every single year, an unbelievable early run of his career. It just shows how great he's been, how great the Angels expect him to continue to be. So backs it up that it would take a long time for a guy to develop and then get to that point and then have something that's almost otherworldly to think about that kind of money. So lots going on there. All right, let's head to segment 3 and let's go by the numbers on this one. And Cedric, your number is 9. Explain.
Well, the Cleveland Browns in the NFL.com's recent power rankings are ranked 9th in the power rankings.
In all of the NFL?
Ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers, ahead of the Baltimore Ravens. I know they've gotten an infusion of talent. Odell Beckham just signed, and they just have a very good, talented young ball club, but they haven't won anything yet. So why are people hyping them up with a first-time head coach and a division with the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers? Give me some Baltimore Ravens acquiring Mark Ingram and Earl Thomas. Now that's some good acquisitions, and I guarantee you that neither one of them is going to propose to a football net during a game. So be careful what you ask for. Odell Beckham is a great player, but Odell Beckham comes with a set of circumstances and a set of issues that maybe Cleveland might not be ready for. Love me some Baker Mayfield. Hometown, love me some Baker. He's a great leader. Maybe had the best rookie year of any quarterback ever. But football season is football season. The power rankings are fine, but somewhere down the line, you're going to have to win some games. And it's not just about talent. It's about fortitude. It's about the experience in those trenches, and it's about toughness. We'll see if the talent meets the production.
Well, I think what you said about in the trenches, Cedric, is interesting because, Cleveland, to my mind, they're going to have to do some movement, offensive line, defensive front. I mean, not to say that they're without anything in those positions, but it's going to be interesting to see what do they do with the draft. How do they continue to develop those guys? Because, you need to have that strength up front. And I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. Not only do they have those extra sort of non-sexy pieces, they seem to be acquiring the skill positions pretty well on offense, but do they have the worker bees, if you will, to handle that? And then I think the question of how do these guys play together? I mean, look at the Lakers. Everybody said, oh, they're just going to acquire this talent, everything's going to be fine. They're out of the playoffs, not going to make it, a total mess. So does it work for the Browns? I think we need to maybe, like you said, Cedric, let's see this play out a little bit, see what happens with these guys. But actually, your number kind of plays into my number in a weird way. My number is 1, which my number is 1 because it tells you how many regular season Major League Baseball games have been played at this moment, which I'm not sure anybody knew. Maybe I should have used this in the in case you missed it segment, but The Major League
Baseball. A lot of people missed it. Yeah.
The Major League Baseball season has opened. It opened in Japan. Mariners are there. Athletics are there. They've already played a game. They're going to play another one in the next 24 hours here. It's weird to me that Major League Baseball sends its season opener, which is a pseudo holiday for a lot of people, sends the opener to Japan more than a week before the rest of the teams open. Most teams are still in the middle of their spring training schedule. The NFL, they put out these power rankings, great marketing. We're talking about the Browns in the middle of March, for crying out loud. Major League Baseball sends its first games to Japan. Do these guys know how to market? Cedric, please, Major League Baseball, what is wrong with them?
They don't market very well, but I'm going to tell you what they do very well, even though the attendance figures don't always seem to be great. They know how to make that money. Japanese money, to use an old school term that my grandfather used to use, the Japanese have long money, Jenny. Long money, which means a lot of money. And they will overpay for everything, especially if it's something that's sexy from America. There are stories of celebrities going to Japan and doing these commercials that are never going to be seen in America, and they are making like $5-6 million per shoot. And they are famous over there for hawking soap or body wash or Armor All, whatever, but it's never seen in America. They go get that money. And so when the Major League Baseball decides to send some teams over to Japan to open up the season, it's not because they don't think there's love for MLB in America. There's just a chance to get some extra money and to tap in to a new financial base. There's big money to be made in Asia because the people over there are starting to come around that American stuff is pretty cool, and they want to be part of the party. Yao Ming, I think, got that started, no question, with the Houston Rockets, and it's kind of carried on since then.
Yeah, and Ichiro being a prime example of that, a guy that had a couple at bats in that opener, is a beloved figure over in Japan. So I get that, but it just, America's pastime opening. Not only, it's not so much opening overseas. To me, I can understand that. It's just the timing of it feels so darn weird that, you're doing it so far out of the rest of the regular season openers. It just feels disjointed, like you're not even you don't really even care about the rest of the season openers. It just makes it feel so strange to me. And I don't know, maybe this all comes back to the fact we're in the middle of March Madness, and some of these leagues need to try to figure out a way to hone in on the basketball side of things. So it's a busy time right now. Maybe that's part of it, but I'm all for having regular season openers at least in the same week. Cedric, is that too much to ask? Go to another continent. I'm fine with that, but could we at least have them in the same calendar week? You're starting to sound old. Am I old? I'm old.
Old school, because you're a traditionalist, and America, 30 or 40 years ago, people really cared about baseball in this country. Now, imagine if they moved the first week of the NFL season over to China. There'd be some couches being burned on the streets. People see this and they go, "Oh, there's only 160 games left." Trust me, we're going to get our fill of baseball. And they've always had like 7 or 8 season openers. You have your home opener, and if you didn't play on the first day, it's still your season opener. There's going to be 3 or 4 days of season openers. Let's just pretend Japan didn't have it.
Depending on how the games go, the teams may say the same thing. We'll see how it goes. All right, that's it for the Writer's Block this week. We'll be back next week, so be sure to join us then. Thanks for watching.